Welcome to today's webinar presented by Supercoder.com. Supercoder.com is an online coding solution offering Part A and B coding reference tools, resources, and not more than 30 specialty coding and compliance newsletters from the Coding Institute in one site. I hope you enjoy this short session.
But we can take a look at what's happened in 2013, and 2012, and start to make some plans for 2013. And the good news is there are not a lot of new things we need to think about. It's a little bit more of the same. So let's jump in and talk about the two components of readiness. There are two key areas that we need to be able to be successful in. We need the ability to identify and prioritize risks to the best of our abilities, to figure out what might be coming, what we need to look for within our own agencies, and then we need to figure out how to respond to the risks as effectively as possible. Now, the good news that I have is any hospice with an effective compliance framework is going to find meeting these two key components quite a bit easier because it really will support both. If you do not have a compliance program or a compliance framework, I would urge you to read a document that is now over 10 years old, but it's the OIG Compliance Program Guidance for Hospices, published back 1999. There's the link to it, and it is the Office of the Inspector General, a group to which we pay attention, their advice, their guidance, their recommendation for hospices in terms of creating a compliance framework. Let's run through the elements within that framework. The document sets out the OIG's vision of what an effective compliance program might be, an effective compliance program that is aimed towards making sure that what the hospice is doing is meeting the regulations, meeting the compliance areas. What I would like to say that we have seen in Hospice Fundamentals, because we don't want to just talk about regulations, we are here to take care of patients. But what we have observed time and time again is the hospice with a good compliance framework is also the hospice that is taking the best care of patients and families because they have a systems approach, they have organized systems in place, they have consistency, and they're really able to meet our regulations, which actually are quite decent regulations, and provide care to patients and families that suits the needs of each individual patient-family unit. So in that document, they set forth 7 compliance program elements. We'll take a quick run through. Number 1 is implementing written policies, procedures, and standards of conduct. In plain speak, it's really thinking through how people should act, writing it down, making sure that you have that foundational piece. Number 2, designating a compliance officer and a compliance committee. So identify who's going to be responsible for this framework, not for doing all the work, but who's going to be responsible and accountable for the compliance efforts, and then pulling together a group to assist. How big that group is and who's on it will look different for every single hospice, because if we lined all of you up, if we were all in one place, and we went through, each one of you is different in your service area, in your size, in your extra programs, so everyone's would look a little bit different. Number 3, conducting effective training and education. So training people. Once you have determined how you're going to do things, what the policy is going to be in your hospice, making sure that you've trained people effectively. Not just provided training, but making sure that it's been done effectively. Number 4 of the 7, developing effective lines of communication, essentially making sure that there's a way for important information to flow within your agency from the top down and from the bottom up. You need to make sure that there are communication channels that are effective, that are open, and can be used. And if that communication channel needs to handle some communication that's a little bit sensitive about a regulatory or compliance issue, making sure that people feel safe enough to use.
Supercoder is the fastest growing online reference tool with more than 25,000 subscribers. Call 866-228-9252 to get a free product demo, or sign up at supercoder.com for a 7-day free trial.